Hey Artnerds! So Kuretake has released a new granulating set. This is their Granulating Set 2. I know, super creative name. And I believe this is cosmic colors, like cosmic red, cosmic green, cosmic blue, cosmic purple, that sort of thing. I am really excited to swatch these for you guys and to do some field tests with them because one, I tend to really like Kuretake's Gansai Tambi products. In fact, I tend to really like Kuretake in general. Two, I already reviewed and talked about their first set a couple years ago, and it is a fairly popular video that I hope you guys will check out if you haven't watched it yet. And three, because I love super granulating watercolors, and I have reviewed a lot of super granulating watercolors here on the channel over the years. So if you are new here, hi, hello, welcome. I'm Becca Hilburn. I'm a watercolor comic artist, and that is the lens that I am primarily going to be looking at these today. Are these suitable for watercolor comic backgrounds? So I am so excited to unbox, swatch, and paint using Kuretake's Gansai Tambi Granulating Set 2 watercolors. Hey there, art nerds. So when Kuretake announced that they were doing another set of granulating colors, you guys know I was curious and I had to find out. So this is the Kuretake Gansai Tambi Granulating Colors 2 set, 5 colors and 1 pan set. I have already reviewed their original set and it is now part of my Kuretake Gansai Tambi tower, and these will be joining those once we finish with this review. So this comes with 1 empty pan. So instead of the usual 6 color set like you might see from Kuretake, it is a 5 color set. And the colors in this set are Cosmic Red, Cosmic Olive, Cosmic Green, Cosmic Blue, Cosmic Violet, and it comes with 1 empty pan. The colors of these Gansai watercolors separate to create whimsical and dreamy effects. The degree of color separation and blurring may vary depending on the type of paper used. You can enjoy greater change in color by dissolving the watercolors in lots of water and letting the colors separate on your palette before painting. Apply water brush with color to activate it. Gansai pans may exhibit cracking due to extreme dryness. However, it does not affect their quality. Occasionally, Gansai pan texture may look rough due to tiny air bubbles, which can occur during production, which does not affect their quality. Please note, not for use by children when in store. Keep Gansai pan horizontally with palette facing upwards. Do not leave in direct sunlight or in high temperatures. Do not use for a purpose other than intended. Wash your brush after use and make sure palette is dry before storing. So if you guys are new here, hi, hello, welcome. I'm Becca Hilburn. I'm a watercolor comic artist. I have reviewed a lot of granulating watercolors as well as a lot of Gansai style watercolors here on the channel. So if you are interested in either, I hope you will check the description below. I will have playlists for both linked for you guys for your handy convenience. And if you are old here, hi, welcome back. It's so good to see you. So I'm not going to go through all the rigmarole that I went through with the first review. We do not have to go to the Kuretake website. We don't need to do all of that. I will, however, put the price up that I paid for these watercolors for you guys. And if you guys are curious about learning more about Kuretake Gansai Tambi, Gansai style watercolors, Etegami watercolor, or granulating watercolors, make sure you check that description. I do want to put these through a thorough test. So not only am I going to unbox these and swatch these and force granulate these and maybe paint something in watercolor with these, and then also test these out for watercolor comic backgrounds. Actually, that's exactly what I plan on doing today. So we still have a lot ahead of us. So let us go ahead and get started. So here are our 5 colors. I'll go ahead and remove the empty pan. They are loose in here. And then on the back is the name. It is also in Japanese. And like I said, they are just loose colors. The numbers for these are 776, that's Cosmic Red, 777, Cosmic Olive, 778, Cosmic Green, 779, Cosmic Blue, and 780 Cosmic Violet. And I will re-swatch the first set that I purchased just so you guys can get an idea for what kind of colors are in both sets. Today, as many days, Pinky, we are going to be swatching on Blick Cold Press Cotton Rag watercolor paper. Now, these are Gansai watercolors. Gansai was originally developed for Etegami postcards. I may or may not also swatch on some Etegami postcards. There's a bunch of different types of Etegami paper. So you will get varying results depending on the paper that you use. And if you're interested in learning more about the art of Etegami, I highly recommend you check out the playlist that I will link in the description. There will be plenty of playlists for you guys. I love giving you guys homework, and hopefully that'll inspire you to make art a habit and make it accessible and part of your life. So I may end up swatching these on Etegami postcards as well. But for the time being, we are going to start on our Blick Cotton Rag watercolor paper, since that is what I use for pretty much all of these videos, y'all. So granulating watercolors, there's, I had like a strong lead up for this, but actually there's two ways my brain organizes granulating watercolors. You have normal granulation, like what ultramarine blue does, what some greens will do, like chromium green, what yellow ochre might do, right? Where the particle size is larger and some of it soaks into the valleys of watercolor paper, and it gives you kind of like a speckly sort of effect. Smalt blue is an excellent example of that. When I'm referring to granulating watercolors in this instance, though, these are colors that have been designed to granulate out into separate colors so that we get these really interesting special effects. So generally, I think of granulating watercolors as a special effect watercolor. And as a watercolor comic artist, that has a particular interest to me because it can make for very easy atmospheric backgrounds that just... They look cool, they're great for special effects, but I wouldn't necessarily be painting layers on top of them, nor would I be painting them necessarily on top of other things. They would be a standalone thing for me. And there's some exceptions to that, like I use undersea green for like everything. It's one of my favorite colors, and that's definitely a granulating color that separates out into a few different colors. So it's not like a hard and fast rule for me, but typically what I'm looking at and looking for when I'm looking at granulating watercolors like this is their ability to achieve interesting and unique special effects. Since we only have 5 colors here, I am just going to do this live instead of time-lapsing this. And I'll go ahead and turn my Discord all the way down. Speaking of Discord, if you want to hang out with some other art nerdy people, I have an Art Nerd centered Discord server, the Paint Box. You can find a link down in the description below if you'd like to come hang out with us, chat about paints, and get updates for when I'm doing premieres, live streams, or when a new video is live. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do normal swatches with these. I am actually going to test for opacity since I think that is a quality that people might be curious about. I'm going to test for opacity. I'm going to do what I call forced granulation swatches, and then we're also going to re-swatch their first set so you guys can kind of compare the two colors. I have reviewed a lot of granulating and super granulating watercolors here on the channel, so if you're interested in that topic, you know what to do at this point. Make sure you check the description below. And if this sounds like your jam and you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell notification so you never miss an update from me. So generally with my watercolor swatches, I would pre-activate, but I have found that with Gansai style watercolors, that isn't really necessary, and it can actually make the paints go kind of goopy since they use a different binder from traditional Western style watercolors. So that is our Cosmic Red. Next is Cosmic Olive. And since I mentioned being a watercolor comic artist, it would really mean a lot to me if you would check out my watercolor comic, 7-inch Kara. You can read it for free as a webcomic at 7inchkara.com, and that might give you kind of an idea of where I'm coming from with this. Also, these watercolors were not sent to me. I purchased these out of pocket with funds from my wonderful patrons on Patreon. So if you like the work that I do and you'd like to help me continue to do it, think of me kind of like PBS. This is made possible with support from viewers like you. That was Cosmic Green. Next is Cosmic Blue. And currently not really seeing a lot of granulation. So this would be mass tone. I was expecting to see some with the washout that I'm doing here, but that's why we're going to do forced granulation swatches in a moment. And that is Cosmic Violet. And just for comparison against the mass tone, and you can see as we have added water in, you can start to see some other colors showing up. So Cosmic Red, Cosmic Olive, Cosmic Green, Cosmic Blue, and Cosmic Violet. I'm gonna go change out my water, and we will actually, you know what we'll do? We will do our original set swatches right by the side, because why not? So here is my first set in their Studio MM stack. Really actually like the Gansai towers that she makes. It's been really helpful, and it's very easy for me to just add new paints as I go. Time moves funny for people with ADHD, so I may have reviewed this last year. I may have reviewed this about 2 years ago. It's kind of hard for me to remember. I do remember though that I painted an iris with these. So I haven't yet decided what subject matter I will use for my field test. And I hesitate to call it a field test because I am going to also paint some watercolor cookies with these to test out their ability to handle just being a background color. And last time when I did these, I did the 5 major emotions I associate with having ADHD. So I've actually already drafted another 5 to test these out. And honestly, they maybe could have benefited from some pre-activation. You can tell this one is my favorite because it's the one that's used up the most. And since I don't have the names in this set written down, we'll start with this one. This is Aurora Violet. Then this one here, which is Aurora Orange. Then this one, which is Aurora Pink. Then we have this one, which is Aurora Blue. And then I believe this final one is Aurora Red. Yep, Aurora Red. And you can kind of see when these get wet, you can start to see like a purple or a green on them. And you can definitely start to kind of see it here. You have like hot pink and orange mixed in. Whereas with the Cosmic set, I don't know, I can't quite see. I don't know that they really picked like one main color as their theme color. So, you know, it'll be interesting to force these to granulate and see what we can get them to do. Got a cup of nice, clean, filtered water. I will do one forced granulation swatch for you guys live. So what it is it is a bunch of water. Then we dip into our paint and see how we have all that water. It kind of forces the colors to move out of the way, and that way if we can get some granulation out of it, this will be a good way to see how these colors granulate. So Cosmic Red granulates out to red, red violet, and yellow. Cosmic Olive granulates to sap green and mauve. Cosmic Green granulates to phthalo green and a cool blue. It's the least interesting of this set. Cosmic Blue granulates out to a cool bright blue, possibly indigo and orange. And Cosmic Violet, which might be my favorite, granulates into mauve and phthalo green, but the combo makes for a really pretty purple. These have such pretty splits for the most part. Cosmic green, little underwhelming, but like all the other colors, very pretty so far. So since these are Gansai style watercolors, I'll move that to the side and let that dry. I have a couple of Etegami packs, and I thought it'd be fun to do some swatches on these just to see if they handle any differently. Some Etegami papers are designed to bleed more than others. They have different special effects. This one is pretty prone to bleeding, and that's something that's really pretty and interesting for these kind of granulating watercolors, because you can see with these you get this really pretty halo effect, whereas on this paper, which has some blurring and bleeding, and you can see it a little bit, it's just not as noticeable. I'm going to try adding some water and see if I can like force it to halo a little bit. So some, but not so much. So Etegami in general is intended as a very immediate, free, and kind of loose art form. They're just pretty little postcards that you send off to people that you care about, and they're not meant to be this really like deliberate and overwrought sort of watercolor form. And that's something I think is so charming about Etegami. And if you're new to it, I really do hope you'll check it out. I think it's a wonderful art form, and I think it's a perfect way to kind of just get started with making art, especially if you like to make art for other people. Took a little bit longer, but with the additional water, we do start to see more of that forced granulation, even on the Gansai paper. So for these tests, I'm going to test 4 of the colors, the 4 most interesting. We're going to start by using the Cosmic Red, and we're going to do some roses. And if you're one of my patrons over on Patreon, I've already started sharing these illustrations as start to finish tutorials. I believe roses and the muscadines are already available. So if you want to draw and paint along with me, if you want to know what the process is for these, you can join me at patreon.com/natosoup, because I'm not going to be sharing those tutorials over here on YouTube. So Cosmic Red has this really lovely, almost blood red sort of color, or like a carmine color, and I think this is caused by the yellow and like a mauve color mixing together to optically appear as red. And when I was reviewing the Schmincke colors, I learned that red isn't really a color that granulates really well due to the particle size. It's kind of an unusual granulator, or it's unusual to find it in a granulation, with volcano red being like one of the few reds that granulate. Now, I'm saying red, I don't mean pink, like you have Potter's pink. There's lots of pinks that granulate. I'm talking about red. In fact, the cooler pinks I've noticed tend to granulate out more readily. So I thought this was a really interesting combination and a really nice inclusion in this set, because you really don't see a lot of red granulators. So when the Gansai actually granulates out well, they're very flexible, and you can really do a lot with just one pan. You can do misty things, you can do watery things, you can do more controlled things. This could be an interesting set for people who want a limited number of watercolors, like total. They don't want to own a bunch of watercolor, but they want their watercolors to be really flexible. Something interesting, as I mentioned, about Cosmic Red is that we only seem to get the red due to the combination of mauve and yellow, and then with more yellow we get oranges, which is really neat. These seem like they get used up fast, but the red has a ton of really fun, pretty granulation that works really well for this. And a water lily would have also been really pretty with this color combination. Next is Cosmic Olive. My notes say, I don't know why they decided to do this color, because in mass tone it's not particularly pretty, but as soon as it splits it's gorgeous. I actually disagree with that statement. I do like the mass tone sometimes, but it is an unusual color choice because it's not a very showy from the get-go kind of color. Now, I love the color combo of the green and purple. This is one of the colors that really begs you to force it to split. So of course I had to paint muscadines with it, because that's exactly what this color combo looks like. It looks like ripe green and purple muscadine grapes. And I wanted to keep this one looser because I feel like I overworked the rose a little bit and I lost a lot of the fun color shifting freshness. So I want to keep this one a bit lighter. Now I really wanted to force blooming and cauliflowering and color movement, as much granulation as possible. This could be also a fun one to use with salt, just anything to force those colors to split and move. The cauliflowering and spray techniques are just so pretty with this color. These kind of granulating watercolors do so well with loads of water and a chance to really bloom. These benefit from being worked really loosely. So while I was working on these field tests, I was doing about 2 of them per day, and I was kind of battling an 8-day migraine. And no one forced me to paint. I wanted to paint to relax and just kind of enjoy and to do something fun. But I don't have show notes for the next 2 colors. So this is Cosmic Blue. It granulates blue and orange, which is a really interesting color choice. I do wish we could see more of the orange, and the 2 colors mixed together make an interesting indigo color. So this is one that has some good flexibility to it, but I do wish we saw more of that orange, because as you guys can see, it gets kind of overridden by all the blue. And I was inspired to do pansies with this color combo because with pansies you'll get these really pretty blues and oranges and yellows and purples. Well, I mean, pansies come in all sorts of colors, but this kind of lent itself to pansies for this. But the color splits are not as noticeable as with Cosmic Red and Cosmic Olive. This is still more impressive though with Cosmic Green. That's the one color I decided not to do a flower field test for, because it's like a teal green and a cool blue, and it just doesn't, okay, first of all, like every brand does that color combo. So it's not particularly interesting. So I decided not to focus on that. I wanted to focus on the splits that not every brand offers. And I do think with the granulating set too, Kuretake did more than they did with the first set. The first set, all the colors feel very same. They're all kind of a play on something, but there's not enough diversity in the color to justify having those 4 colors because they all feel very similar. With the Cosmic set, the granulating set 2, the colors are very different, and I like that. They're all distinct and can kind of stand on their own. Finally, we're gonna do several irises because they are my favorite flower and I can't resist. You guys who watched the first video with Aurora, I did only one field test like this with Aurora Violet, and I love that color. So I wanted to do more irises because they're my favorite flower, as I said. So this is Cosmic Violet, and this one's also very pretty. There's kind of a purple, a mauve, and like a teal thing going on. And I have noticed that when you mix a mauve and a teal, that you will get a purple. And you can really see the teal as we're using a lot of water. It separates out very nicely. I do kind of think Aurora Violet is a little bit more impressive than Cosmic Violet, but both are really pretty. I'm glad they're not offered in the same set, because then I would be directly comparing them to each other. Instead, they're in 2 different sets. So Aurora Violet was the best of Granulating Set 1. There's several really strong colors in Granulating Set 2. In fact, I would argue there's just one weak color, as opposed to with Granulating Set 1, where there were some pretty colors and maybe I should have given them more of a chance, but I felt like the only one that really impressed me and stood out enough to me was Aurora Violet. So I do kind of feel like Kuretake is exploring their options with these granulating colors, and I love it. I hope they release more granulating sets. I think their granulating watercolors are very accessible. They're very easy to use. I love that they're in the large Gansai pans. I love that I don't have to set them up to dry. They do get used up a little bit fast, but again, we're doing this kind of like a monochromatic painting where we only have a couple of colors, so you're really using one pan to do almost everything. So it kind of makes sense that it might get used up kind of fast. So my only real complaint so far is we don't need the empty pan. Either sell us a set of 5 and make it a little less expensive, because the granulating sets are pretty expensive, or give us a 6th color. Now, I'm sure Kuretake, when they're finished doing the granulating sets, will do like an anniversary edition release, and I'll be kicking myself for having bought them piecemeal so that I can review them for you guys. But at least it gives me a chance to explore them and share them with you guys and talk about them, rather than, you know, risking FOMO by not buying them. Now, I'm not saying you have to buy this set. I enjoyed this set and I'm glad I bought this, and I prefer this set to set 1, but as with any art supply, you can probably live without this if you don't need it. If it doesn't spark joy for you and it's not in your budget, you will be fine. So if you've been around my channel before, you recognize these. These are my granulation test cookies, and I have reviewed several brands that offer granulating watercolors. And I tend to write the brand on the back, so like, for example, these would be some of the Schmincke ones. These are some of the Paul Rubens ones, and I have done so many of them. And I enjoy keeping them in these little card sleeves because there's something really satisfying about having done a set like I've done food sets. So like these are different forage foods, and I'll usually write what it is on the back, like muscadine here, or like small toys and amusements. And they all feature Kara, the main character from my comic. Since these are kind of like to see how well this would work for comic backgrounds and how like good they are at conveying different emotions. So I kind of enjoy doing these like little practical tests. But what I'm looking for is I have reviewed Kuretake's previous granulating set. So that's what I'm looking for right now. And those were 5 emotions that I attribute to having ADHD as somebody, here they are, as somebody who has ADHD and got a diagnosis for ADHD when I was 6. So back in like 91. So anyway, it's a very lived experience for me is what I'm trying to say. Very like own voices kind of thing. So this, and this is from the previous Kuretake granulating set. So we have here Aurora Red, and that would be, I did not write the emotion there. It's probably embarrassment or shame. Then we have like kind of spaced out in left field. So that would be Aurora Pink. Then we have embarrassment, oh, anger, like RSD kind of anger. Embarrassment, which would be Aurora Orange. Then we have like having a meltdown or like emotional overwhelm, which would be Aurora Blue. And then we have joy, which would be Aurora Violet. So I kind of wanted to continue to explore that theme, one, since these are also a Kuretake product, but also because, again, as an ADHD person, I thought that would be an interesting and self-exploratory theme to share with you guys. So here are 5 more ADHD emotions. We have understimulated, and that is going to be Cosmic Green, kind of the least interesting of these colors. Then we have overstimulated, where she's avoiding eye contact and she's biting her lip and she's picking at her fingers, which is, all of those are so me. That's going to be Cosmic Olive. We have hyper focus, which is going to be Cosmic Red. We have, I'm calling this caffeinated. Caffeine doesn't necessarily affect ADHD people the same way, but you guys know what I mean when like all the cylinders are clicking and your brain's really going at a good groove and like everything's kind of working that day. So I'm going to call it caffeinated just because I don't have a better term for it. Maybe one of you guys do. What do you call it on those really golden days where everything is just kind of going great and your ADHD is actually working in your favor rather than fighting against you? Let me know. This one's going to be Cosmic Purple, which is my favorite from this set, although there are a lot of really pretty colors in this set. And then finally we have Tired. This is me so often. And that is going to be Cosmic Blue, which is another really pretty color. So these are 5 more ADHD emotions. And of course, this is not all inclusive. So if there's something that is 11-year-old girl appropriate, since that's how old this character is, and it is an emotion that you associate with your ADHD experience, I would be curious to hear about it down in the comments. I am always excited to kind of share these experiences with other like-minded people. So what I am going to do for this, and if you are new here, then this is new to you, but my old friends here know what I'm going to do. I'm going to paint the background first using the Kuretake Granulating colors, and then I am going to batch paint all 5 of these, boom, 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 so that you guys can see it, really kind of testing out how I generally would paint comic pages. So normally my super granulation cookies are punched out of Blick, but since I had some scrap arches, I wanted to use that. So these are actually a little bit different, and I had a lot of trouble getting these to stay in place, but it could have been because I used a different washi tape to secure the back than I normally do. I don't think arches dramatically affected the results since I paint on arches a lot, but I did think that it was important to note to you guys. So I'm going to use all 5 of the colors. We're starting with Cosmic Green, and this is for understimulated. It's pretty enough, but this is a really common color combo that's available from most brands that offer super granulating or split granulating colors. So it's you know, I have this from 4 different brands. It's not really that exciting for me. Next should be, this does not look like hyperfocus. Okay, sorry, overstimulated. This is Cosmic Green. It didn't separate out as much as I'd hoped since mauve and olive green are 2 very different colors. I thought the split would be ideal to represent being overstimulated. It's a shame that I didn't get that split. It's mostly like an olive khaki. I did add some water to force splitting, but it's just not that noticeable. I'm not sure how I got such a pretty split with the granulation test, because it was on a cotton rag paper. Hyperfocus is Cosmic Red. There's some interesting grit and granulation in the red, which is really a mix of yellow and mauve, but if you want a granulating red, that might be the way to go. In general, I love this color. It's so pretty. You can see me just like dabbing in just a little extra red here and there. And I love how we get like that yellowy, orangey kind of thing going on in the background. Just so pretty. So next is Sleepy. And that's Cosmic Blue. While the colors do separate, it's not as much granulation as I'd really kind of hoped for. I really would have liked to have seen Kuretake kind of push this color more, especially with the orange, or even having like a yellow ochre or like something that's going to granulate out more, like an Indian red might have been a good way to go, because you see some of the orange there, but it's just not as much as I would have liked. And then finally, for caffeinated or excited, we have Cosmic Violet, and this one has really pretty separation. So, you know, Becca runs on coffee. I get a mocha granita basically every day. That is my treat. So I am always caffeinated. I have been caffeinated since I was like younger than 5 years old. So, you know, excited, caffeinated. I didn't want to offend anybody by including this, but like, you know, real ADHD homies know what I'm talking about how important it is to have that hydration drink and then that caffeination drink. So hopefully I'm not offending any fellow ADHDs. So next we are going to paint these in batch. This is something that I do for pretty much all of these super granulation tutorials, kind of to simulate how I might paint comic pages in batch, or just how it holds up to painting like really wet washes right next to it. Is it going to bleed? Is it going to move? Are we going to have problems with it? So for comic backgrounds, these are fine. I like the granulation that the red has to offer. That's fairly unusual at reds, as we keep saying. And I think that if you get the orange to show up better for Cosmic Blue, it has a lot to offer. And I love the purple and teal split. It's a lot of fun. If you're using a decent cellulose, so we used XL, I like XL, or if you use Mauve, which is what I use for 7-inch Cara, you might actually see better splits. So you may see these colors again in the comic, and they may look a little bit different because they may granulate differently out on Mauve. But if you do get it in the wrong area, lifting it isn't so easy. These are fairly staining. However, they don't seem to reactivate and bleed if you let them dry properly. So I noted to myself, in true ADHD fashion, the word I was looking for the emotion on Cosmic Violet is actually hyper. How many of you guys are thinking that as I was like describing caffeinated and excited? Like, Becca, you just mean hyper. Well, there you go. And that's, in my experience, that's literally the thing everybody assumes we are most of the time, although a lot of us are inattentive or combination type. I think these would definitely work for comic backgrounds. So in general, I really like these. I think this is an improvement on set 1. I don't necessarily think you need both sets. I'm enjoying set 2. I hope that Kuretake will continue to play around with interesting and special effects Gansai watercolors, especially after seeing what it can do on Etegami paper. I definitely may need to go back and play around with that on the more bleedy Etegami papers. I just haven't had any like inspiration lightning strikes, be like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I ought to use it for, to kind of inspire how I'm going to go. But I think it could be a lot of fun on Etegami paper, and like realistically, that is what these kinds of watercolors were developed for to begin with. I am painting with my Daily Driver watercolor palette, so this is what I use for comics, this is what I use for my own personal illustrations, this is what I use for commissions, because that's what I would paint comic pages with, and this is, you know, my old standby. And those metal bars that you guys see me using, those are Chinese watercolor weights. I really like them. They do a really good job of holding paper down. If you watch my channel, you guys see me use them all the time. But that kind of like wraps up my notes for these paints for the Kuretake Granulating Set too. I like the format. I think you get an okay amount of paint. You could fill them up more, but honestly, I've reviewed a lot of Gansai style paints that have had way scanter fills than what Kuretake does. I find that in general, my Kuretake paints last like they last through a lot of paintings. They don't necessarily get used up as fast as some of, not the Paul Rubens. The Paul Rubens are pretty good, but like some of the other paints in that style that are trying to be like Gansai, Kuretake tends to last longer. So if you're interested in those kind of paints, I have been reviewing a lot of them as I'm trying to work through my backlog. So maybe you guys will check it out. Oh my gosh, you can see my headphones. I'm actually screening a video while I'm working on a video. Recursion. Actually, because I have a backlog and I'm always kind of trying to chug along at things to make sure that I get a video out to you guys once a week. So if you like what you see here, you should expect an art supply review, sometimes a tutorial once a week. If you want more tutorials, I'm going to be sharing more Patreon only tutorials over on Patreon. So if you want to draw or paint along with me, that would be the place to do it. And I'm just kind of adding the finishing touches to this, you know, painting everything in batch. So like all the dark shadows on the hair at the same time, all the white gouache at the same time, and we are finished. I feel like these would definitely work for comic backgrounds. If you're interested in playing around with super granulating or split granulation watercolors, this might be a great set to start with. I like the color splits in this set better than Kuretake's Granulation 1 set. I think there's more interesting color splits going on, including a couple that are definitely more unusual. These are a little more accessible than some of the other granulating watercolors I've reviewed, but they do get used up fast, so they're not the most economical. So what are the pros and cons of the Kuretake Gansai Tambi Granulating Colors 2 set? Let's start with the positives. These have some really pretty color splits. The large pan size is easy to get into with larger brushes. This is an improvement, in my opinion, over their first granulating set. This is a brand that many people trust, and these are going to be available from a variety of sources. But what about the cons? These are fairly expensive. You get 5 pans instead of 6, and I don't think that empty pan is doing anyone any real favors, and these get used up fast. What is my verdict for the Kuretake Granulating Colors 2? These are a fun way to dip a toe into super granulating watercolors, but if you already have some of the more popular sets, this is not make or break. If you can get individual colors, I would recommend Cosmic Violet, Cosmic Red, and Cosmic Olive, as they are more unusual. Now for the part that I'm pretty excited about. I think some of you guys who are super big nerds might be pretty excited about this too. It is adding the Super Granulation 2 set to the Super Granulation 1 set. I know, very, very dorky. And at some point I'm gonna have to make like a swatch that kind of demonstrates where everything's at. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh. If you include the 2 empties, we have a everything is in one place. So these are the colors in Super Granulation 1, and then these are the colors in well, they don't call it Super Granulation. It's just Granulating 1 and Granulating 2. Here's the other super geeky moment of excitement, adding the finished watercolor cookies to the card sleeves that I specifically sought out to fit my 3-inch hole punched cookies. There's something really satisfying about slipping new granulation tests in here. I didn't collect Pokemon cards growing up, believe it or not, or magic cards, so I guess this fills that need for me of like, the card collectible. It goes in the sleeve. It never leaves the sleeve. I don't know. I know I'm weird, but they look so good there. And now it's time to add them to the rest of the collection. Actually, to just one set of the collection to add it with the other Kuretake Granulating watercolors. Field testing and trying these watercolors out. I ended up liking every color in this set except for Cosmic Green, which was honestly just not enough of a color shift. It was green and blue, and it wasn't like a warm green and a cool blue, or a warm blue and a cool green, or anything that might have, or like a yellowy green with a purpley blue, anything that might have a really dynamic range. They were both very similar, very close together, so I just didn't find it to be that useful of a color. But the other colors in the set, including Cosmic Olive, are just really interesting and bring something, I think, a little bit exciting to the table. Now, if you already have like the not the Paul Rubens, the White Knights, or the new Holbein granulating colors, which I would love to review, but they have a bunch of them, and that's a little bit expensive for me. Or Supervision's granulating colors, or Martini's granulating colors there, or what is it? Oh my gosh, Kusakabe's granulating colors. There's a lot of options on the market. If you already have those sets, this set is not make or break. You would be fine with that. But if you're interested in getting into super granulating watercolors and you don't want a huge collection of them, you just want a few, this could be an interesting way to go. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope this was helpful, useful, inspiring, and informative for you guys. For my little watercolor cookies, I did 5 more ADHD emotions featuring Kara, the Lilliputian main character from my comic 7-inch Kara. I have ADHD, she also happens to have ADHD, so if you are looking for some heartwarming and positive ADHD representation, or if you're looking for some charming escapism, you can read 7-inch Kara for free as a webcomic at 7inchkara.com. In fact, it would mean a lot to me if you would take the time to do so. Videos like this are brought to you guys thanks to the generosity of my patrons on Patreon. This set was not sent to me by Kuretake. It was purchased out of pocket with funds from Patreon. So if you like what I do and you'd like to help me continue to do it, and you would like early access to videos like this one, you can join me for just $2 a month at patreon.com/natosoup. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I look forward to seeing you guys again soon with another art supply review. And I hope that this has inspired you to help make art a habit in your life. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye, guys!